The way you allow the market to buy from you matters, and perhaps now more than ever. In our personal lives, flexible ways to pay for things is everywhere. We subscribe to services that we used to prepay for. We finance our Peloton exercise bikes and our weekend orders from Walmart. And we're generally more attracted to buy, and I would argue to buy more when we're offered flexible ways to pay. My name is Ian Pugh, and I'm excited to go on this journey with you all today. Many of you and the resellers that you support have been successfully selling in a certain way, and there's a massive opportunity to evolve. And it all starts with one simple and key question. Would you like to consider flexible ways to pay for this? This one question will not only open up doors, but lead to larger commission checks for you. Yes, when you offer flexible ways to pay, you will win more often and make more money. To set the stage, let's explore our current way of selling. Sometimes, and maybe often, long sales motions, too often margin negotiations at the end of the sales process, and it often ends with you asking your customer to strike a big fat check. Yet if you ask yourself, does your customer really desire to own the technology? Did they wake up this morning with the idea that they wanted to cut a big check and take full ownership of what's already a depreciating asset, something that's worth less today than it was yesterday or when they originally bought it? Listen, we want to make the argument and have an open discussion today because we live in a consumer and rental economy where anything and everything can be shared. Ownership, we believe, is no longer the destination that a lot of your end users desire. They want solutions that are easy to understand and even easier to consume. And by offering flexible ways to pay, you make it easier for them to buy from you. And it's really that simple. Let's continue our exploration by thinking about your consumption preferences, and specifically, how have your buying behavior, has your buying behavior changed over the last couple of years? What about it has changed? Have your preferences changes, the companies you're attracted to change, the consumption models or the way that they allow you to buy from them change? Think about that for a moment. Right? In the world, there's a lot that's up in the air, and there's a lot of brand new innovation and technology out there, but I think there's just as much innovation around consumption behavior and the consumption options that we provide. We've seen a complete shift in the way that the customer really thinks about purchasing, right? Previously, they would save and save and save, budget, 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 until they had cash on hand to make a purchase. And now, in our personal lives at least, everything can be rented or shared or offered with flexible ways to pay. Let's explore just a couple of examples to kind of hammer this point home. A logo that everybody on the planet knows, many of us love, Apple. And what's happened in the last handful of years of how they allow us to consume specifically their iPhone product. And it's not a surprise, many of you probably rent or finance the hardware that's sitting in your pocket or on the desk, what have you. And the idea here is that Apple really understood that by offering flexible ways to pay, everybody in the value chain won. Us as the consumers love the new technology, that fancy, beautifully designed box that we can open up and power on our brand new iPhone for the first time, right? And we would willingly pay $30 a month forever to have the latest and greatest innovation by our friends at Apple. Service providers love this option because every 2 years, that customer comes in and renews their service agreement, which is where their profitability lies. And Apple loves this since every 2 years, they know that they're going to have a new product, in most cases, go into the hand of their end users, right? And they've got another iPhone sale in the market. Apple simply pivoting to allow their end users flexible ways to pay has led them to be even more successful than they already were. And that's all they had to do. It wasn't about the product. It was about making it simple to understand and simple to consume. Another example, our friends at Coca-Cola, one of the major brands on the planet, right? What did they do in the holiday season of 2019? They came out with their very own subscription service where all the brand new Coca-Cola products, and you would pick some of your favorites, would show up on your doorstep for a tidy fee of $10 per month. And again, it's interesting, right? Coca-Cola wanted to try a new concept, and within 48 hours, they had to stop new customers from enrolling in the program. They had too much demand, and they had to push the pause button. But what's happening here? Fine, there's some new Coca-Cola products, and it's really nice to be the first to get those products and to be able to promote that and put it on your Instagram feed or whatever the case may be. But what Coca-Cola did was take their brand and gave their customers a new, flexible, and simple way to buy their product. And oh, by the way, they didn't have to make a purchase every single time. Every single month, Coca-Cola would strike their credit card for $10, and beautiful Coca-Cola product would end up on their customer's doorstep, right? So again, as we explore this, there's thousands and thousands of examples where new companies are disrupting how we buy things, and even the companies and the greatest brands on the planet are attracted because they understand that as a human race, we think about buying differently than we did in the past. So let's spin this around a little bit. Let's flip the script, right? Got some bad news for everybody. Today will be the last day that you can use your Netflix account unless you're willing to prepay for 3 years. You got to cut a check for $550 and you get to use Netflix for the next 3 years. It feels weird, right? My first reaction would be no thanks. I'd rather pay $15 a month and likely can find somebody else who can provide my entertainment needs. But the idea here is that Netflix conditioned the market to consume and experience their technology, because really what they are is a technology platform in a certain way. And the reality is that we're seeing the same trend throughout the technology resale space. Give me flexible ways to pay, and don't forget cloud and subscription services are driving a lot of this, right? Or I will find somebody who does. So let me restate that one more time, right? End users are getting conditioned in their personal lives. It's absolutely there. And their professional lives is running at fever pitch. And it's all centered around providing our customers flexible ways to pay for things. Just want to hover over this for a second. When we don't give our customers flexible ways to pay for things, and furthermore, when we only offer them the opportunity to pay us in cash, it creates friction. And the outcomes of that friction is moving the conversation from value to cost, right? We've talked about the experience. We've talked about what problems we're solving. We're talking about the benefits that a company would realize if they move forward with purchasing whatever technology you might be representing. But when we ask somebody to open up their pocketbook and cut us a big check, the conversation almost all the time moves from value to cost. It also opens the door to competitive pressure. Often, customers didn't expect that it was going to cost so much, and when they're surprised, typically people's reaction to being surprised by something is to investigate or to research it further. Enter competition. It can lead to delays in purchase, or the customer just buys less, which happens more often than not, right? That purchase gets delayed. They didn't expect it to cost $100,000. They had $75,000 budget. We're going to have to push this the next quarter. Or, hey, I only have $75,000 to purchase. I know we spent the last 2 months architecting this specific solution just for me. Is there anything that we can take out of this? And again, all of that is friction, not only in the relationship, but in actually making that purchasing decision. We touched on this a moment ago at the very beginning of our conversation, but I just want to slow down and hover over this for a second. Ask your end users how important it is for them to own something. It's a great conversation for them to have because they're likely going to be asking, well, what do you mean by that? And what are the other options that are out there? And opens up, again, a buying conversation. I would argue and bet that ownership of the technology is very, very low on your buyer's priority list. Maybe they have budgeted, maybe that they have the cash on hand, but that's different than their priority. Do they want to spend $100,000 on chosen technology, or do they feel like they have to because they haven't been given other options? And we touched on this before, but I just want to highlight it again. The destination for a lot of us in our personal lives, and I would argue in our professional as well, is not to own something outright, but it's to get a fair deal, to understand what the experience is, and to have that experience be simple, right? And none of that has to do with ownership of a specific or named technology. The point I'm making here is just to kind of stop and think, right? We talked about evolution on the front end of our time together today. Because when someone cuts a big check, they use that product until it has significant signs of aging or fails altogether. And this outcome is driven mostly based on the way someone buys from you, and it can be avoided. To paint this picture even further, what happens when you own something? Right? I just touched base. When you own something, you're going to use it until it's got significant signs of risk or failure altogether. And the community of technology hoarders that are out there really put the burden on the reseller community to deal with the cost and the headache of maintaining aging technology. This is driven based on having a lack of standards around the way people buy from us in the channel. Let me say that a different way. You should care more than maybe you do today in the way that customers buy from you. Not just that they buy from you or when they buy from you, but the method in which they buy from you. And this all starts with one simple conversation and one simple question that we'll just highlight here again. Would you like flexible ways to pay? The second question comes into kind of navigating what is the ideal lifespan of a chosen technology? How long do you, as a subject matter expert, believe that an end user should consider an upgrade around network infrastructure or mobile devices or PCs, UC, fill in the blank? You and your end user, and our guidance would be once an end user has given you the thumbs up, which we think will happen more often than not, that they would like to consider flexible ways to paying for this thing. The next part of the conversation is, what is the average lifespan of this technology? When should we check in to make sure that whatever you're purchasing today is still serving the business purpose? Number one, new innovation hasn't come out into the market that could provide other benefits. But even in parallel with that, when does that technology become end of sale, end of support, and or altogether just showing age and riskiness within that customer's environment? Question number one, the genesis, would you like flexible ways to pay for this? And then we step down to having a healthy conversation about what the lifespan of the technology should be. Then we go into the conversation to talk about what happens at the end of the lifespan. When something has reached its useful life, yes, the thing might work, but good is often not good enough. And you've got to consider how new innovation, especially with how fast things are moving, can impact your business. So we start with a simple question. Would you like to consider flexible ways to pay? Then we talk about the lifespan of the chosen technology, and then we explore what do we want to have happen at the end. And this isn't a destination. They don't have to keep the old or refresh to the new, but it's a great moment in time for us to have the conversation about how new technology can have a material impact on our end user, or how that old technology might continue risks as they go forward. And what has happened when we successfully navigate this conversation is we create a perpetual technology budget. Oops, sorry, 1 second here. We have created a perpetual technology budget, right? A budget that is omnipresent, a budget that once established, you likely don't have to set again. When that end user is used to spending $1,000 a month for said technology and managed services experience, and after the term of that contract, let's hypothetically say it's 3 years, and we sit down and we say, listen, you're spending $1,000 a month, the technology is showing some signs of age, there's other new technology that can materially impact your business, and on top of that, you don't even have to go back to the coffers to budget, because we can probably get the same solution installed for the same or less than what you're spending today. Again, that $1,000 number, right? So when we kind of rewind the tape here and we start to have the conversation early with our end users about how they want to consume the technology, we set the expectation that a technology has a lifespan, and that lifespan needs to be managed, because if not, obsolescence will be upon us. And then we talk about what type of flexibility we want to have to explore new technology after its lifespan. We have created a perpetual technology budget. And as a technology seller, there is nothing better than knowing that you have a budget established, and all you have to do is go out there and serve that specific end user. All right, I want to take a step back here and pivot a bit. And what we're going to pivot to close this video is just exploring 3 of the outcomes that our resellers have shared with us when they've engaged Ingram Micro Flexible Payments team. Let's explore that here for a moment. Number 1, providing flexible ways to pay for stuff has helped us successfully move deals through the funnel. We all have deals that are stuck, delayed, ignoring us. You can fill in the blank. A simple outbound call or email asking them if they'd like to consider flexible ways to pay will often lead to a discussion. And what is better than talking to your customers about buying from you? So again, what we're hearing is that this is a great conversation starter. It's moving deals through the funnel. And even if they aren't choosing flexible payments, it's helping our sellers understand where they stand in the deal and how likely it is that they will win. Number two, when we bundle products and services into a flexible payment, it has allowed us to sell more recurring services and protect our hardware margins. When you sell on cash terms and line item pricing, you are often setting yourself up for a pricing battle. And I'm not trying to make the argument that this will never happen with flexible payments, but it'll happen much less often. I can guarantee you that. When you bundle products, implementation, and ongoing managed services, you put yourself into a place to sell a complete solution and or experience, and you move the conversation from price to experiential value. Number three, getting funded within hours of a project completing has greatly improved our time to cash and stress levels. And listen, especially with the trying times where we're living through now, anything that we can do to lower the stress level of our resellers is something we should heavily consider. And candidly, one of the understated challenges from our reseller community is their ability to get paid, which in turn means that they can pay Ingram. When end users choose flexible payments, your reseller is paid within hours in full of completing that job. No more watching for the mail, running out to the mailbox, or heck, coming from your home office and driving to the office to check the mailbox, only to find out that that deposit or final payment that you were expecting has still not come. So there are many other positive outcomes that you can expect when your resellers engage with us and when you engage with us, but these were three that we hear often. Let's quickly review. Monthly and flexible payments are ruling the world. As a human race, we gravitate towards things where there's flexibility in consumption. Technology hoarders create a ton of risk for us all, especially our reseller community who takes the burden of those challenges, of that risky technology, of supporting it, and the guidance of their end users to try to do something different. But it's hard. When something is working, it is hard, especially if they own it. If they own it outright and it's working okay, not great, but it's working okay, it's hard to get somebody to move off of that technology. But when you have a contract that has a specific destination, which is lifecycle management, not only will you win today, but that deal that you get years into the future will be easier to sell. I think I talked about this ad nauseum, but you will reduce friction in the sales motion. What is better than reducing friction when you lead with monthly and flexible payments? And it all starts with one simple question. That simple question, would you like to consider flexible ways to pay for this? In closing, listen, I just want to kind of start where we started. The way that you allow the market to buy from you matters, and perhaps now more than ever. At Ingram Micro, Flexible Payments team is here ready to serve, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.